are you bringing in revenue from whatever else you're scaling to be able to pay the other people on your team? So the more you really understand how math works and you're actually doing those calculations for different positions and different services and different offerings, all of a sudden it starts to make so much more sense to you of like, okay, is this a good decision? And if the desire is so strong for you, even if it doesn't make sense the first time you put the numbers in, okay, how can you then change the numbers around? How can you change the model around to make it make sense? Because I want us to have a lot of fun in our businesses. Not everything in our business has to make the best financial sense, but it can't make bad financial sense.
Hey, and welcome to the Speak Organized podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Summers, professional organizer, ADHD organizing specialist, and your go-to gal for all things pro organizing business. I like to speak organized to give you the tools to conquer your clutter, live life with more purpose, and learn all about the business of tidying. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, go ahead and pull out your device and tap that subscribe button so that you become a member of the Speaker fam. And as you get value out of today's episode and you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and tap the notification bell so that you're notified whenever we post new content every single week. And if you're an Apple Podcast user, you can go ahead and leave us a rave 5-star review, which helps boost our ratings and helps the channel grow so that we can reach more amazing people just like you looking to get into the professional organizing industry. And I want you to join us in the free Facebook community, the I Speak Organized Professional Organizers Network. If you have questions and you're just looking for some of that genuine connection and you need to get some advice, that's the perfect place to be. The information to join that group is going to be down in the description of the video and the podcast show notes.
The main mission here at I Speak Organized is to give you the best quality tools and resources to level up your business and have a truly successful 6 or 7-figure business that doesn't suck away all of your time. So if you're brand new to all of this and it seems very overwhelming, you don't really know where to start, you have come to the right place. I am your go-to gal for all things pro-organizing business. If you're afraid that you aren't enough, like you don't have enough experience or you don't really have the goods to bring to the table to charge what other people charge or whatever story you happen to be telling yourself, I am here to help you understand that you can be exceptional with the right tools and training. So in just a few minutes, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how I can help you with that. But in the meantime, let's get into this juicy interview.
All right, Speaker fam, please join me in welcoming the lovely, the gorgeous Corinne Morahan. She is the CEO and founder of Grid Glam, and she's got a lot of really cool information to share with us today about finances. Thank goodness, because I've tried to have financial experts on the podcast before, and it's a very important topic. It's one that gets kind of scary and quite frankly, a little boring. And
It's true.
When I met you at the How To Summit over the summer, I was like, this is the lady that I need, please, in my life. So Corinne, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. And yeah, it can get boring. So we're going to try and keep it fun today.
I know you will. You're always so fabulous and just inspirational. And so I first want to hear a little bit about your background because you are from the professional organizing industry. That's another key piece of this. So
Yep.
You know the industry very intimately and you know what we need to run successful businesses, and finance is a big part of that. So what inspired you to start Grid Glam?
I started my career working on Wall Street. So I do have a finance background. And then I took some career shifts. I went to grad school and I was staring my 40th birthday in the eye. And I had always loved organizing. I actually had taken some courses through NAPO like 10 years prior to starting my business. So I'd been thinking about it in the back of my mind for a while, but I just never took the plunge. And then when I was turning 40, I'm like, it's now or never. Like you got to do it. And so I spent a year decluttering and organizing my own home. It changed everything for me just before that time. And I was like, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to start a business. And so Grid Glam started as a strictly in-person professional organizing business, which we still run today. Mm-hmm. I have an amazing head of in-person organizing who really runs the day-to-day of in-person organizing. Our signature offering in-person is our concierge move-ins. We do full house move-ins. I mean, we definitely do smaller projects as well. So that still is a big part of the business. And then I also run coaching programs for professional organizers, but also other service-based entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And so we're actually kind of going to be talking more about the second key piece of your business, which is more from the coaching for professional organizers, which I know that most of my audience come here for information as aspiring or new professional organizers. So this is perfect. But I love to hear sort of the background of how you started your business with in-person organizing, just like everybody else did.
Yep.
And how it can grow and evolve, and you can start to bring in those additional revenue streams. It's really awesome. So take that to heart, everybody listening and watching today, because maybe one day you're going to have this fabulous organizing empire just like Corinne. So to kind of piggyback off of that first question, so what inspired you to incorporate financial management specifically in your coaching for professional organizers? What did you see was lacking there?
Yeah, so you mentioned the How To Summit. So I had gone to the very first one, and I think I had only started my business a year and a half prior to being there. And I realized how many of the incredible organizers that I knew from online and I was meeting in person who were running these great businesses were lacking in this key area of understanding their finances. And I think because of my finance background, all of the business decisions I make, I always look at through a financial lens as a piece of it. It's certainly not the only lens to make business decisions through, but it is a very sound lens to look at it through, right? It helps you make really good decisions. And so it's sort of that being at the summit actually gave me the idea to coach professional organizers in the first place. Cause I'm like, there's just such a gap in their business knowledge. They're such good organizers, but a lot of them aren't making the money that they want. And a piece of making the money you want is understanding where the money comes in. What are your expenses? You had mentioned diversifying your revenue. I'm a huge believer in having diversified revenue, especially because you look at something like the global pandemic, which shut down so many people's businesses. I had serendipitously launched an online organizing membership in January of 2020. So my business was booming all through the pandemic because I had the online piece of it. So really, I became super passionate about helping other organizers understand their business financials so that they could make the money that they want. They could also feel more confident as CEOs, because so many organizers feel really confident in their organizing abilities, but not in the running of the business. And the truth is, we spend so much more time running our businesses than we actually do organizing. And the only way to grow and scale materially is to understand your finances. You do not need to be the expert. I am not the financial expert of my business either. I have professionals, but you really do need to understand it. And so teaching other organizers how to look at their businesses through a financial lens, make decisions through a financial lens, really can materially help you grow your revenue, grow your profit. I use my calculator every single day. And I remember being in a conversation with some organizers, and I had mentioned that just sort of offhand. They're like, what are you using it for? And I'm like, what are you not using it for? Every decision can be looked at through a financial lens. Again, it's not the only way to do it, right? So many of us run our businesses based on intuition and strategy. And I think that is great. And I think we need to continue to do that and layer in this financial component as well.
Absolutely. That's so well said. There's so many things that you just mentioned that I want to point out. And one thing is the understanding the financial piece is so empowering.
Yeah.
I mean, how much confidence does it give you? Because numbers don't lie. They're not emotional. They're very black and white, and they can really give you in a very quick snapshot pretty much exactly what's going on in your business. And there is no emotion in it. And once I realized that as a young business owner, young entrepreneur, it actually brought this sense of confidence and peace, because I was like, there's no guesswork. And I'm not having to, emotionally tiptoe around that. And so I think that is so empowering. So I want to know kind of what your approach is to helping organizers understand and manage their business finances effectively. What are some of your strategies?
Yeah. So one of the key places to start is really understanding what business do you want to run. So I have a vibe framework, which is really sort of a litmus test to run our businesses through. And V in vibe stands for vision. And it's not just a buzzword. It's something we need to be really clear on, because if you don't know what type of business you want to run, you don't really actually know what financials you want to be tracking. If you want to be a one woman show and you don't want to have a team, your financials are going to look very different than someone who has diversified their revenue, who has multiple teams, who has a lot of different offerings. So yes, numbers don't lie, but we also have to be tracking numbers that really make sense for our business, or they're not telling us the story that we need to know. And so getting super clear on that, I think, is a big differentiator for how I coach organizers, because we do, even within our industry, we do not have the same business models. And so what is your business model? And then you might hear someone talking about their high revenue numbers, and you might get that comparison that's creeping in. And it's like, okay, if you run multiple teams and you have multiple service offerings, your revenue is going to be higher than if you're a one woman show. What's your profit margin? How much you're actually bringing home, right? So really helping organizers get super clear on what their vision is for their business. And then from there, we can figure out what you should be looking at specifically in your finances. What is a good profit margin for you to be tracking? And then the other piece of vision is, how much do you want to grow and scale your business? I love investing in my business. I spend a lot investing in my business. That's not right for everybody. So again, it's not a one size fits all solution. So these are all of the pieces that I help the organizers I coach tease out before they're even getting to, okay, what metrics should I be tracking in my business?
Yeah, absolutely. Set the foundation and understand. Was it you talking at the summit about how, because you mentioned your calculator earlier, do you actually use a physical calculator?
I do.
Like an old school calculator?
And it's not, I'm like, I'm going to get it out of my desk right now. I keep it right next to me at all times. It's actually the calculator that I was given in my analyst class. It still has my maiden name, my initials, but from my maiden name carved in it. So it's a financial calculator, and I still use a physical calculator almost every single day in my business. Yes.
That is amazing. So
Yeah.
you just bring it back to the basics. And I
Yes.
love hearing that, because it doesn't have to be super complex.
Nope.
And as you mentioned, it's not a one size fits all approach, which is very important. I feel like many of us in the coaching space really try to create a method that is, it's just hard to find a way to make sure that it is custom to your business financial needs. And it's just so important. I love to hear that you're doing that. So let's talk a little bit more about the Vibe membership, because at the end, I want you guys, by the way, those of you listening and watching, to stick around until the end, because we do have a very special offer for you at the end of today's episode. And so please stick around, because I don't want you to miss it. So a little foreshadowing for you.
Yes. Special
Vibe
gift for your
membership.
audience. Yes. So I started to realize that, we see it all the time with our clients. We see it if for those of us who have kids, with our kids, and even with ourselves, attention spans are shrinking. But our need to know things about our business is not. And so I wanted to create a program that would be based on micro learnings, where we could every month tackle something very specific in our businesses, where we can master it in a month. It's not a huge, overwhelming concept, but something we need to master. But then what I see with so many business owners is they'll learn something, but then they're not implementing it, because they get busy or it's hard to prioritize. So another big piece of the membership is, how do you actually integrate this thing that you've just learned into your life? So the membership is a business membership, but it's also a lifestyle membership, because so many of us, we lose a lot of our personal lives to running our businesses. I know when I first started, I had big dreams for my business, and I worked nonstop, because I was doing, it was a one woman show. So I was seeing all my clients every day. And then I was working on the business at night and on the weekends. I'm married. My kids were super little at the time, and I made myself super unhealthy. I gained weight, and I started really like resenting the business and almost wanting to give it up. And so I am committed to helping other women not get to that point. And so a piece, I always talk about filling a knowledge gap and a mindset gap. And that's what we're doing. We're working on our mindset, but we're also learning things, and we're figuring out how we can integrate it into our lives. So, we're going to cover all of the things we need to know in our businesses, finances and marketing. And when I say marketing, not just as an overarching concept, but how do we actually market our in-person businesses? How do we grow an email list? How do we show up on social media? Like all of the very nitty-gritty specifics. And then how do we create a system and a routine around that in our lives and in our businesses so that as we're learning more, we're not feeling more and more overwhelmed with the more we have to do. It's the opposite. It's like we've integrated this into our business in a way that feels seamless. And I always share, so I run my in-person organizing, I have my online organizing membership, I have my coaching programs, and I also run a podcast. And I work on the business full time. I have a full-time head of in-person organizing, but I only have 2 other part-time people that work on the back end of my business. So we run these businesses with a very lean team, and we do not work a ton. So it really is possible to grow a business and scale it and make a lot of revenue and make a lot of profit without, running this thing that's a huge beast if you do it well and if you do it with really strong systems. So that's what the Vibe membership is all about. And it's doing it in community because it can get lonely and it can get really hard. And you want to be able to have a platform where you can ask those dumb questions, the questions you feel like, oh my God, I've been in business for a few years, I should already know this. Or the opposite, I'm just starting out and I'm like too shy to ask this question. It's like, there are no dumb questions, but part of what Vibe will do is give a community where you can ask these questions. I'll be answering them. The cohort around you will be answering them. My team will be in there in the community answering the questions. So it's really going to be your one-stop shop to build a business and a life that you feel really excited about.
That's beautiful. Yeah, beautifully said. And I don't think I've ever met an organizer that I didn't like, that I didn't feel had a servant's heart and was very generous. And so being a part of a community of primarily women who are surrounding you, who actually want to answer those quote unquote dumb questions, and really remember having been in those places in their own businesses and just have a moment to simplify things and know that you're not alone is just so important. So I'm glad that you're out there in that space doing those things. What I really appreciate about you, Corinne, is that it comes from the financial piece, because that really is finances, taxes, anything having to do with numbers is a really, really scary aspect of the business. And having that as that foundational pillar is so key. So I want to draw that back into the conversation for a second and talk about what you see as some of the common financial mistakes that professional organizers are making and how can you avoid them?
Yeah. And so the first mistake is just not paying attention to your finances. And it is a mistake that I see almost all organizers do. And it's like, stop right now. You've got to stop that. You have to start looking at your finances right now. But in terms of specifics, so I'll share 2. One is having a dream goal for how much revenue you want to make and not having a business model that could ever create that for you. So, and I shared this example at the summit of some organizers that I was coaching, and they needed to make 10,000 more a month in revenue. And we did the calculations on their hourly rate, and they were going to have to fill 133 more hours a month in client work to be able to hit that revenue. And I asked them, like, can you service those amount of hours? And they were like, not even close to that. We could maybe do 20 of those hours. So in their mind, they had a pipeline issue and they had a conversion issue. But it's like, even with all the clients at your disposal ready to sign, you can't service them. So you can't bring in that revenue. So really understanding if your business model is set up for that revenue. And then you've got 2 choices. You can either create a revenue goal that's more realistic, or you can say, all right, I'm ready to build that business to reach that revenue. And of course, it's a little bit more complicated than that, because you want to make sure that you're getting the profit in you need, not just the revenue. So there's, you have to be smart about how you're scaling, but those are really the 2 choices. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see people. And it's hard because it impacts your self-esteem when you feel like you're not making the revenue you want, or you don't have the profit that you want. But if you understand that maybe you just don't have a business model that's set up for it, it's like, okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. I just actually haven't set up the right structure for it. And the next is very specific, but I bring it up because I've seen this happen to multiple organizers where they get locked in to paying for advertising. A lot of times it's print advertising, where they sign a contract for 12 months that they can't get out of, and they get no ROI from it, no return on their investment. So There are certain areas where you do need to give it a few months to see a return. With SEO, for example, if you're going to onboard a social media manager, maybe you need to give them a few months. If you're going to be working with a coach, right? It's not that you necessarily can expect immediate results, but do not lock yourself into something for 12 months that you don't know for sure is going to give you an ROI. And I think advertising is one of those things that I've seen professional organizers fall into the trap of over and over again. They spend thousands of dollars over a year and they get nothing from it.
All right, fam, imagine this. You are sitting here in 6 months, sitting right where you are now, and you're running your own professional organizing business that is effortlessly scaling to 6 figures. How awesome would that be? But let me guess, you're sitting here today and you've got that voice of imposter syndrome whispering in your ear, who am I to do this? Well, let me tell you, I have been there, and it is not only possible to overcome those doubts, it is essential because your future clients are looking for you, not anybody else, you. So, how do you scale a 6-figure business? It's easy. You stick with me. I got you. It is my honor to introduce you to my Empowered Organizer membership community, which is a game changer for turning your passion into, if you want, a full-time 6-figure gig. We've got done-for-you scripts and resources, collaborative monthly coaching calls, and a supportive community to fast-track your success by avoiding all the superfluous fluff and, of course, all the dumb mistakes that I've made over the years so that you don't have to make the same ones. You're welcome. Head to melaniesummerscoaching.com/empowered-organizer to learn more and enroll today. And don't worry, it's kind of like your favorite streaming subscription service. You can cancel anytime and renew when you want. And if that weren't convincing enough, let me give you just a little taste of the treasure trove that you'll find when you head to ispeakorganized.com/courses. First, you'll definitely want to check out my overbooked course, packed with golden nuggets to help you get clients and fill your calendar so that you can work full-time as a professional organizer. Or if you need a little personalized guidance, my one-on-one coaching sessions are perfect for getting your most burning questions answered, helping you move forward confidently. Or how about I save you loads of precious time with my professional organizer forms pack, 9 done-for-you customizable forms, including a client agreement, so that you can start taking paying clients ASAP. And don't miss my ChatGPT prompt guide with over 750 prompts to optimize tasks like social media captions, blog posts, and more, engineered for success every time. Again, visit ispeakorganized.com/courses to explore all these options and more. Are you ready to take the leap? Visit the link. I know you want to.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I've definitely fallen into that trap before as a newbie, and it seems like a great lucrative opportunity to get your face out there in the community. And for whatever reason, it just does not produce the results that you think it does.
No, it never does.
No, it never does. SEO for us has always been very lucrative. And then it's, zero money and marketing cost. It really is just kind of a learning curve and something that I'm fascinated by. And it's fun once you understand how it works. But yeah, it's worth talking to a professional, having a good mentor or a coach to really kind of talk you through and avoid those pitfalls. I advocate for that from the beginning as much as possible. So I'm glad you brought that up. There is one other thing that I wanted to point out. I'm going off script here, but this is important because listening to your talk at the summit in September, you have a lean team, but you have a large business. There's different pillars in it, and you still run your organizing business from an hourly perspective, like you're talking about setting up the right financial structure. And I think sometimes people get caught up in package versus hourly, and they get caught up in how do I estimate, and it becomes this sort of like roadblock that stops people from taking action and moving forward. Yeah. And I would just love to hear very quickly what your perspective is on that and why you think it's better to just keep it simple and go for it with an hourly rate.
Yeah, I think I said this at the summit too. I will die on the hourly rate hill. Having said that, you got to do what you have to do, what makes sense for you. So there's no right or wrong here. But there's 2 pieces of it. One is with an hourly rate, you are getting paid for all the time you are working and there's no surprises. So yes, you have to get good at estimating because you have to give your client a proposal that is going to be about the amount of hours that you think. So yes, you still have to be good at estimating. But if you are off or if scope changes changes, or if your client doesn't purge the way they say they're going to, or if you do your consultation and then within the 3 weeks between consultation and getting there, there's a whole bunch of other crap in the space that wasn't there initially, it's going to take you more time. And if you have given a project scope, you can really get screwed on that. But here's the other big piece that we have to get good at is having the conversation up front, and not just the conversation. It has to be in your contract that the estimate that you're giving of hours is based on the scope at the time, and it's subject to change. And you have to be willing to tell your clients, once you're, if it's a 2-day project, at the end of day 1, if you feel like you are not going to get it done in the hours allotted, you need to put on your big girl pants and you need to tell your client, we are going to come in over. So we've got 2 choices. We can take it to completion and it will be probably X amount more hours, or we will stop at the allotted time and we'll bring it to completion as much as we can. That is the piece that is so hard for organizers. And I think a lot of times they want to go with a project fee because then they don't have to have those conversations anymore. You have the conversation once at the beginning of the project. And if you are a super incredible estimator, then it works in your favor sometimes. But a lot of times, because of the things I listed before, scope creep or clients not doing their part or things changing, you end up getting screwed in the wrong direction most of the time, I think, with project pricing. So
Yeah,
that's my concise answer for you.
No, that's perfectly said. All the things that you brought up, I'm laughing on the inside because those things quite literally happen 99.9% of the time. And that's why they're calling you to come and organize for them in the first place, because the expectation of reality versus Pinterest or whatever is just, it's not there. And so they think that we're magicians and physicists who can bend the laws of space and time and make space where it doesn't exist and time where it doesn't exist. And so
exactly.
Having the ability to set that flexibility in your expectations ahead of time is so crucial. And I love your approach.
Yeah. I just don't see an upside to doing a project pricing. I can't think of any upside. They say that the downside to doing hourly is people can focus on the speed at which you are working, but we are working fast anyway because we're trying to wrap it up, because in our mind, we have an estimate of how long it's going to take us. That's how we landed on the project pricing in the first place. And we've got other clients waiting for us. So, I'll share this for anyone new or who is starting out. There, every now and then, not so much anymore, but earlier when I was running the business, every now and then you're on a project and you're like, we're not working as fast as we can. I know we could have been doing better. In a situation like that, I have gone to a client and said, we're going to go 2 hours over and I'm not going to charge you for it. Because if I feel like it's on me and my team, I can always choose to say, I'm not going to charge you for those extra 2 hours. But if everything is going as it should be, we're working at the pace we should be, and it's on the client end, that's when you have to have the difficult conversation of, this we're going to go over or we're not going to finish it. And part of running a business is getting better and better at having those hard conversations.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I like this sort of script that you essentially laid out for us. So everybody go back, listen, and take notes.
Transcribe it.
Yeah, transcribe it. That's what AI is for.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about the financial literacy piece again, because that is kind of the primary topic for today. So how do you feel that financial literacy contributes to the success and specifically the scalability of your business, especially if you're working from an hourly perspective where it's a little bit more of a simplified idea for your pricing structure? So how does all of that work in terms of scalability?
Yeah. So, we cannot discount this confidence piece. And so many of the decisions that keep us small in running our businesses are because of lack of confidence or lack of self-esteem. And it is incredible how much understanding your numbers can boost your confidence. You feel like a real CEO when you understand what your business is doing, even if the numbers are not what you want them to be. It's not just that it gives you that confidence when things are going well, it's that it gives you the confidence of understanding what the lay of the land is. So that is first and foremost how it lays the foundation for scalability, because you have the confidence to say like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm running a business. And then as you're growing and scaling, this is when I'm taking out the calculator again. So it's, if I'm going to be hiring a team the rule of thumb is to charge your clients 3 times what you're paying out someone on your team. So our hourly rate is $150 an hour. The highest paid organizer we have on our team is $50 an hour, right? So it's $50 to the organizer, $50 to the business, $50 to taxes. So that's a really good rule of thumb. So if you don't understand your financials, or you don't have a rate that you could charge or pay out, like if you're in an area where you feel like you can only charge $80 an hour, but you have organizers that you're paying $50 an hour to, the math might not work for you. It might not be the best business model to scale in by growing a team. So what are other ways that you want to grow and scale your business? Are there digital offerings you could do? There's so many ways to be creative in scaling our businesses and growing and scaling, but we have to understand what is the math behind it. The bigger of a business you run, the more back-end support you need. You don't need a huge team. I shared that I don't have a huge team, but I do have a team. And unlike with organizers where you can directly bill the organizer's time to your clients, you can't do that with other members of your team. So again, are you bringing in revenue from whatever else you're scaling to be able to pay the other people on your team? So the more you really understand how math works and you're actually doing those calculations for different positions and different services and different offerings, all of a sudden it starts to make so much more sense to you of like, okay, is this a good decision? And if the desire is so strong for you, even if it doesn't make sense the first time you put the numbers in, okay, how can you then change the numbers around? How can you change the model around to make it make sense? Because I want us to have a lot of fun in our businesses. Not everything in our business has to make the best financial sense, but it can't make bad financial sense, if that makes sense, right? Like not everything is going to be a good investment. Not everything is going to be the most lucrative, but you don't want to do something that is ultimately losing you money. Like I'll give an example with my podcast, for example. I don't monetize it yet. I'm not actually making money from it. And I pay money every month to have it produced, to put out a weekly podcast. So if I can't see that my podcast is bringing me in new clients, new members, new coaching clients, I have to reevaluate if it's a good decision for me to keep it going. I love it. It's so fun. It gives me so many great opportunities, but it's okay that it's not directly bringing me an ROI and monetization, but am I losing money off of it by what I have to pay out every month? Or can I say, okay, wait, it's not monetized, but I can see my numbers elsewhere are growing. It's from the, call it advertising of my podcast, right? The having it out there. So I could look at the money that I'm spending every month to get it produced as my advertising budget per se, because I don't spend anywhere else on ad spend. So really just understanding what is happening from a financial lens in your business helps you make decisions. Because if you're paying out a ton for your podcast, you don't see any of your numbers materially changing, and you don't have a longer term goal that it's leading to you towards, that's when you might have to make a decision of like, do I want to keep this going? And I have had programs that I've run that have made me a lot of money. But when I do the math on the amount of money it's making me for the amount of time I've spent on them, I'm like, actually, this is not a good business decision for me. And I'm feeling drained and tired from doing it. I'm going to shut it down. We can't be afraid to shut down things in our business if they're just not working for us anymore.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Getting rid of that 80% bottleneck stuff to focus on the 20% that actually is both fulfilling and financially stable is so important. Now, what would you say if you were going to give like an estimate of time that you're going to kind of let something percolate and you're going to run those numbers? How long do you let that go before you're like, nope, cut it down, shut it off?
That is a good question. And I don't think I have a clear-cut answer for you. I think the first screen that I would put it through is, how much do I love this or not love this? Because if I don't love this, I'm really not going to give it as much time. If I'm loving something, I'm going to give it more time. And so if I'm loving something and I don't see that it's really working out, I might give it like at least a year. So I'm not talking about making a super quick decision. Like if I feel like it's going to be something and I feel like it's so fun, I'm going to give it time. But if I'm not loving something, I'm feeling resistance, I feel like it's not working, after 3 to 6 months, I'm going to say, you know what? Let me cut my losses here and not give into that sunk cost fallacy. Like I've created it. Let me like double down on it. If you're not feeling it and the numbers are not showing you that it's going to pan out, I might say, all right, this isn't it. That doesn't mean you throw the whole thing out. Are there ways that you can pivot, that you can change it? But, in today's market where people act pretty quickly, we get good data points relatively quickly. And so if after 3 to 6 months you're not seeing the success you want, you probably have to change something about it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a good parameter. And again, like you're saying, you're not scrapping it, you're changing it, you're
Mhm.
analyzing it, you're tweaking. I do the same thing with my podcast and with my speaking career. A lot of times you're speaking pro bono, but
Yep.
are you selling a book?
Yep.
Am I selling a new spot to my membership or to my one-on-one coaching or a product, digital product? Like what's the ROI there? Because it does exist. It's not all in like, what sponsor are you working with or this or that? So I'm
So
really
true.
glad that you're bringing these things up and just giving people some ideas of what success can look like in various different ways. So speaking of that,
Yes.
I would love to hear a specific example. We can take somebody from your Vibe membership or a
Yeah.
coaching client you've worked with that having that financial management has significantly impacted their business. What does that look like? Inspire us.
Yeah. Oh, I have so many good examples. I'll give you one that I think this is a big one because it was like a several $100,000 shift in their business. So Megan from Order and Company, she runs the Organizers Collective Retreat, which is like the most fun retreat for professional organizers.
I love
Oh
her.
my God. That retreat is so fun. I'll be a speaker there. It's in Savannah, Georgia this year in
Awesome.
April. So when she first started coaching with me, her business looked so different than it looks now. But specifically, they had this pantry offering and they loved doing pantries. They had kind of created it plug and play. And it was like they were called in to do the aesthetics of pantries and to organize them. And this was really their signature offering. And then we did some math on it. And it turned out that it was like super not lucrative for them to do it. Now, not to say you're not going to do pantry projects. Of course you are. But if you're making that the bread and butter of your business, but it's the profit margin and the profit just aren't there for you, you've got to do something materially different. At the time, they were also running almost like a construction part of the business, which was making them a lot of money, but had so many headaches associated with it. So I'm like, you got to shut it down. So they shut it down. And she loves design and decor, and she started getting into staging. So I'll spare you all the details, but she ended up purchasing a staging business from someone else. And now she has like massively diversified her revenue, but the profit margins on staging jobs are massive because once you buy the furniture, like it's very little time to set up a stage, right? Obviously there's like the manual labor, but you set it up and then the furniture sits there and you continue to get money from your clients while the furniture's in the house. So she still does her organizing, big projects, small projects, concierge moves. She runs the retreat. So we really worked on diversifying her revenue. But if she had not realized that she was going to lean in hard to this one service. And when she realized that can be a component of her portfolio, but not the whole thing, she has brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars more a year because of making that shift. And she's more than made back, obviously, the money she spent on the furniture. Now, I'm not suggesting people go out and buy other businesses. That's a huge step. I mean, I've never done it, but that's a very broad example. And then, one of the other examples that I'll give, and I gave this at How to Summit, was Lisa from Get Neat with Lisa. She really, really wanted to create a digital offering. It was so on her heart. She used to be a teacher and she really wanted to put this online membership out there. And also she was trying to think ahead of as she's getting older and doesn't necessarily want to be on so many jobs in person. How could she diversify her revenue? And so she had come up with this idea. And so I coached her on how to launch it. But a big piece of that was what should the numbers of it be? Like, how much are you going to charge for it that it makes sense for your time? Because when you're coaching people online, you can't then also be in your clients' homes. So really just doing the math on what that would look like. And she sold out her membership during her first launch and she really loved it and was able to diversify her revenue that way. So those are two fun stories.
Oh, and they're just two wonderful people too. I love those ladies so much.
Yeah.
So it's been fun connecting with them over the years. It's great to celebrate in their success as well. So
I know that some people are getting some great ideas and getting their wheels turning listening to this conversation. So I want to try to give them a couple of practical things to take away
Yeah.
from this. So let's talk very quickly about tools and systems. So
Okay.
what do you recommend for organizers to keep their finances in check besides
Yeah.
your calculator?
Right. And not everyone has to use a calculator all the time, but I just also don't know how you make decisions without it. Okay.
I love
So
it.
I think all of us should be using QuickBooks. Most of us do, I think, and I don't use it to its full functionality, right? Like I don't invoice through it. I know you can basically like run your business through it, but
Mm.
just have it to reconcile all of your transactions. It makes then doing your quarterly tasks estimates. Oh my God, I can't talk. Tax estimates. So much easier because you can see from there, once all your accounts are reconciled, you can see what your profit is for a quarter, how much money you are going to pay in your quarterly taxes. And if you have the online version, it can interface with your accountant. And so again, at the end of the year, it can make paying your taxes just so much easier. So I think QuickBooks, and then having a monthly P&L statement, a profit and loss statement that you look at. And when I was a one-woman show, before I even obviously I was using QuickBooks in terms of I had it synced to my accounts, but I wasn't even reconciling my transactions until I got a bookkeeper. But I was keeping my own spreadsheet of everything, all the money that had come in from every project, every
Mm.
single expense I had, and what was the profit and loss for every single month. So I would just have a snapshot of the health of my business. I think a lot of organizers, they pay their bills, they know what's in their bank account, and they're like, I'm on top of it. Like I know how much money is there, but are you really actually paying attention to was that project that I just did, how profitable was it? Now one of the tools that I'll be giving out in the membership is a tracker that we created for every single one of our in-person jobs to figure out what the profit margin on it was, and then what's our monthly profit margin, and then what's our year-to-date profit margin, and then ultimately what will be our annual profit margin. But just to get a sense for, like we did with Megan, if I have a kitchen job and I have 3 organizers on it versus a storage space, is one more profitable than another as I'm looking at the numbers, just to get an understanding of, the each component of your business. So QuickBooks, and then a basic profit and loss tracker, which you can just download from the internet or create on your own in Google Sheets. I would say at a minimum, using those two tools to look at your finances. And then ultimately making sure that you are logging into I check PayPal, Stripe, and my bank accounts every single day. It's part of my
Mhm.
financial dashboard that I look at daily just to see what's going on.
Yeah, to get that pulse for
Yep.
sure. And just out of curiosity, what do you feel? Do you feel that the financial coaching that you offer is different from traditional financial advice? Do you want to kind of share a little
Yeah.
bit how it kind of is specialized towards the home service industry
Yeah.
specifically? Or if it's not, I don't know, you can kind of
It is.
tell
I
us.
mean, the first thing is I try not to make it boring because it
Mhm.
really can be. I mean, I think money is sexy and fun, but when we get too much into it, people's eyes glaze over. Mine do also. So I think it's, talking about it in a way that is bite-sized, that's actionable, that you're actually going to be able to pay attention to. And then I think the other differentiator is there are absolutely best practices that we should be aware of, right? That are not my best practices, right? That are industry standards. So know what they are, but then making sure that you're applying the metrics to your business that makes sense for the business that you want to run, and not just the business you're running right now. Like if you're investing in your business because you have big goals, you're going to run a business that probably doesn't look as profitable as it could be because you're spending money on business investments. That's not telling you the health of your business, right? If so really, we want to know how healthy your business is so we can know how much you can invest in it if that's your goal. But if that's not your goal, that's not how we're going to look at it. So that is really what I bring to the financial coaching pieces of it. It's understand your business. So then you're tracking the right things. And that changes. Our dreams
Mhm.
change, our visions change, our lives change, right? Like you might have a year where, and this happened for me with my kids, I had a year 2 years ago that was really difficult with one of my children. So I had to pull back on some of the programs that I was running very deliberately, but I knew it was going to impact what our finances of the business looked like. So again, being able to modify goals and metrics down if they need to and not being sad about it. It's like, okay, this is just the reality of what's happening right now. So just bringing all of that to the conversation and the work that we do, I think is a differentiator.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you and I both are big fans of the profit first financial
Yep.
system.
Yep.
So, I mean, if anybody hasn't heard me talk about that before, I'm sure you talk about it in your membership. It's definitely something that I always recommend. And I've used it from day one and I have zero regrets.
You love it. Yeah, I love that.
I
And
love
that's
it too.
it's a great book to just, if you were like, what are they even talking about? Yeah, just download the First book. I listen to the audiobook. I love audiobooks, and it's just like super easy just to start listening. You do want to look at it too in some of the charts and understand how the math of it works, but it's a good place to start.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mike Michalowicz is a
Yeah.
great guy. So just kind of to wrap up with our last few questions to respect your time. Thank you so much for sticking around for all of this. I love to ask my guests what advice that you have for aspiring organizers about setting up solid financial foundations for their business.
So I will hear a lot of people say like, I'm not good at math, or I'm not good with numbers, or numbers intimidate me, and just get that out of your mind right now. You are good with numbers. You are good with math. The math that we do in our businesses is very basic math. It does not need to be hard. So just literally delete those things. Don't say them anymore. Just take that out of your brain, because you can get good at this. You don't need to be the financial expert of your business. I'm not. I have a CFO who does my bookkeeping, and I have an accountant. You do not need to be the expert, but you do need to know your numbers. So the biggest piece of advice from day one is make sure that you are actually looking at your numbers in a cadence that makes sense for you. It doesn't have to be daily, but at least weekly. Really understand what are your finances doing, and come up with basic trackers, download them, or if you're joining a program, use the trackers that they give you, so that you at a minimum at the end of every month have a really clear understanding of what your business finances are. Because then it's actually really fun. You can figure out like what levers do you need to pull to either like push the gas on things to bring in more money, or if you killed it one month, you don't need to kill it again the next month. You could be like, I built this business to have a great life. Like, I'm going to take on fewer clients next month because I can, because it's my business and I can do whatever I want. So really just building that confidence and just looking at the very basics of your numbers is essential when you're starting out.
Beautiful. Yeah, wonderfully said. I have two more things here before we get to our special announcement at the end. I always have my fun James Lipton style question. This one's kind of goofy, so best of luck to you to answer this question. If you could manage the finances of any fictional character, Corinne, who would it be and why?
All right, we're going to take a little left turn here. And one of my favorite pleasures is reading romance novels and erotica. So I'd like to manage Christian Grey's money. He's got a lot of it. And I'd like to see where he's spending it in different areas. I think that would be really, really enlightening.
Yes. Yeah. Man, that's a good one. Because getting to see like all of the individual purchases that a gentleman like that would make is just, it's very intriguing. I love that one. Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah. Both personal and business, right? Because he's a billionaire, and there's got to be a lot of interesting stuff going on behind the scenes. Christian Grey, if you're listening, I would use utmost discretion if you want to bring me into your finances. So
just saying. Just saying. Cringe your girl for sure. Oh my goodness. Too funny. All right. Drum roll, everybody, because this is our final special offer. Corinne is such a sweetheart. She's beautiful. She's generous. She's got something cool for us in terms of her Vibe membership. So I would like you to tell us just a little bit about that and get us ready to engage.
Yes. All right. So the Vibe membership officially starts in January so that we can start off the year right. And we'll drop the link in the show notes. And if you use code Melanie, you will get 50% off your first month in the membership. And because I am a person of my word, you do not get locked into the membership, right? Like I was saying, don't sign up for advertising and lock yourself in for 12 months. This is a come in and go as it suits your needs. So join the first month at 50% off. If you love it, which I know you will, then you'll stay. If at some point you're like, I have a super busy month coming up. I'm going to take a month off. You can come out and come in as you want. This is not to hold you prisoner. It's really meant to give you the templates and the trackers and the support and the community and accountability that you need to run a really strong business. So the doors are going to officially open in December, but the link that we give you should work, and the coupon code will work. So you can join anytime before January. And then on the back end, I'll share it because people who are running businesses might wonder this. So it's a recurring payment, but if you join prior to January, we're going to pause the payments on the back end so that you're not being charged for a second month before you've even completed your first month. So the payments will pause, and then we'll unpause them at the end of January for those of you who are going to stay in. So you can kind of come in anytime. We're going to make it work that way, and use code Melanie for 50% off your first month.
That's amazing, Corinne. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on the show today. I will make sure, again, you guys, that all that information is down in the description of the YouTube video and the podcast show notes so you can take advantage. If you have any questions, of course, you can hit me up. You can contact Corinne and her team. And everybody's, of course, happy to help. So, Corinne, again, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was such an honor, such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun. I love talking money, honey.
All right, fam, as always, that's going to wrap it up. And I just want to say thank you for spending a little bit of time with us and checking out this episode. I really hope that you got as much value out of it as I did. I really do mean when I say that I learned so much from all of my guests, and I hope you did too. So if you want to connect more with her, make sure that you head down to the description of the video and the podcast show notes. All of her information and her resources are there for you. So definitely take advantage of it, as she pointed out. And don't forget to connect with me for that one-on-one coaching call and take my Overlooked to Overbooked course. Listen, you guys, 40% of people in a survey that I just posted said that they struggle with getting clients. And that is exactly what Overbooked solves for you. So if you have any hesitation, you can always reach out to me to learn a little bit more about it. It's definitely a game changer for those who take it. You can check out my Pro Organizer Forms Pack. Just remember to head to ispeakorganized.com/courses. You can see all of the different course material, one-on-one coaching, and resources that I have available for you to really, truly help you make a go of this thing and do your business right, because I want you to succeed. Your success is my success. As always, make sure that you are in that Facebook group so you can get those questions answered and be part of a thriving and growing community. And beyond that, hopefully at this point you're subscribed. If you're not, hit that subscribe button. And then I just hope you have an awesome day. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care.